Good morning, student. Welcome back to our second lecture. Our today's subject is geography. Now we are on chapter number 5, that is winds. We have completed first 4 chapter. Now we are on chapter number 5. Okay? Student, how many of you have feel the wind? Yes, tell me. Yes, we always feel the wind, but we cannot see it. Can we see it? Yes. No, we cannot see the wind, but we feel it. But when we feel the wind, student, when certain objects in our surrounding or any object, when we see that it is moving, at that time we experience or we feel wind. So actually, student, wind is the movement of air. Okay, so what is wind, student? Whenever there is any movement in air, that movement of air is called wind. So now you know what is wind. Okay, so student, today in this chapter we are going to learn everything about winds. So now let's start with our geographical explanation. We have learned that the air pressure is not uniform across the Earth's surface. Air moves from high pressure area towards low pressure area. Now see student, as we have learned in our fourth chapter that air pressure is not same on all the surface of the earth, and this air, it is always moving from high pressure area towards low pressure area, but in horizontal manner, right? When this air pressure moves, because of this student, winds are also generated. When winds are generated, when there is a movement in air, so at that time winds are also generated. The extent of the difference in the air pressure affects the velocity of the wind. The student, underline this word velocity. Write down the meaning over there. Velocity means speed. If there is less difference in the pressure, winds blow with less velocity. Winds blow with greater velocity if the pressure difference is greater. Wind speed also varies. Wind velocity is measured in units of knots or kilometer per hour. Underline this word, student. Wind is always measured with the unit of knots or kilometer per hour. You have to remember this, okay? Now see the explanation. If there is a difference in air pressure in a particular area, suppose if in a particular area there is a high pressure, okay, and simultaneously student, in other close by area, if it is a low pressure, okay, if it is a low pressure, so student, at that time winds are blowing from high pressure area towards the low pressure area. Are you getting me, student? See, again I am explaining. Suppose there is a two region, and in one region there is a high pressure, and simultaneously on the other region if there is a low pressure area. So keep in mind, winds always blow from high pressure area towards the low pressure area. Now see, whenever there is a big difference in winds, so at that time winds blow with a greater velocity. Suppose if there is a large difference in the pressure, in the air pressure, so at that time student, what happened? winds blow with a greater velocity, means the speed of the wind is greater. So you have to remember what, that winds always blow from high pressure area towards the low pressure area. Now, whenever we have to measure the speed of the wind or the velocity of the wind, the units which we are going to use is knots or kilometer per hour. Right, student? As we use millibars to measure air pressure, like this we use kilometer per hour to measure wind velocity. Understood, student? Okay, move ahead. When we consider the earth as a whole, we find the direction of the wind is influenced by the rotation of the earth. In the northern hemisphere, winds get deflected. Underline this word, student, and write down the meaning. Deflected means to change direction towards the right of their original direction. Whereas in the southern hemisphere, they get deflected towards the left of their original direction. See figure 5.2. This direction has shown by curved arrows in the figure. The rotation from west to east caused this change in the original direction of the winds. Now see the explanation. Student, look at the figure over here. Now, in the red color arrow, you will see the difference of the wind. What this red color arrow show? It shows the differences of the wind, which is marked with red color on planet Earth. Right? So, look at the arrow in the northern hemisphere above the equator. As I have shown you in the pressure belt diagram that above the equator, that is northern hemisphere, and below the equator there is southern hemisphere. So now look at the figure and the arrow in the northern hemisphere, means above the equator. Can you see 30 to 60 degree parallel? Yes. So at 30 to 60 degree parallel, the red arrow is in northern hemisphere and it shows the original direction of the wind. What it shows? Original direction of the wind means the wind is blowing in which hemisphere? Northern hemisphere. Right? But the blue arrow shows the deflection. Can you see the blue arrow over there? Curved arrow? Yes. So what this blue arrow shows, student? It shows changes in the direction because of the rotation of the earth. Why we see the changes? Why we experience changes, student? Because of the rotation of the earth. Okay. Now see the 0 degree to 30 degree parallel. Can you see? Right. If you invert the figure, you will see the arrow is pointing towards the equator. See properly, student. That arrow is pointing the equator and winds are deflected, means it is changing towards the right. Which side it is moving? Means curved कौन से side में है वो arrow? Towards the right. Means on southern hemisphere. Okay. That arrow is marked to southern hemisphere. See the figure carefully, huh? So they get deflected towards the left of the original direction. Right? On above the equator we have seen it is showing to the northern hemisphere. Okay? And below the equator, that is southern hemisphere, we have seen that it is changing its position and it is turning towards the left, means to the southern hemisphere. Understood, student? Okay. Student, winds are known by the direction. Now we have seen that it is moving from northern hemisphere, and below the equator it is moving to the southern hemisphere. So because of this direction which they blow, they are known by these names. For example, if wind is blowing to the west side, it is known as westerlies. Understood? So now let's see the types of winds. Student, winds are of three types. They are planetary winds, local winds, and seasonal winds. Now let us consider the planetary winds first. Let's see. Some winds blow regularly on the earth from high to low pressure belt throughout the year. This wind cover a large portion of the earth, hence they are called planetary winds. For example, the easterlies, the westerlies, and the polar winds. Now see the explanation. Student, planetary winds means these are the winds which cover extensive area on the planet Earth. Means large portion of our Earth's surface has been covered by this planetary wind. You can see the arrow in that diagram. Planetary wind has covered all over the planet Earth. Hence, these winds are known as planetary wind. Understood? Now, some of the examples of planetary wind are, look at the diagram over here. See the diagram, student. In both the hemispheres, student, above the equator there is northern hemisphere and below the equator there is southern hemisphere. Alright? So on both the hemisphere we are observing the high pressure area. Am I right? So if wind are blowing from a east direction, understood student? If winds are blowing from the east, so it is known as easterlies. Which wind? Easterlies. Suppose if winds are blowing from the west side, you can see the arrow in the southern hemisphere. You can see the arrow has been showing on the westerlies side. Can you see that? Yes, it means the wind are blowing from which side? West side. Therefore it is known as westerlies. Now on the upward portion, can you see the polar wind over there? So it means the wind are blowing from polar high pressure area towards polar low pressure area. So if wind are blowing from polar region, it is known as which wind? Polar winds. So have you understood the example of planetary winds? Okay. Now move ahead to our second type of winds. So our second type of wind is local winds. The winds that blow for a short duration of time, originated in specific region and blow over a limited area, are called local winds. Local winds affect the climate of the region where they blow. These winds are known by different local names in the different region where they blow. Now see the explanation. Student, as we have seen that planetary winds cover large area on the earth's surface, right? But local winds, they blow only for a short time. They don't blow regularly or continuously. They blow only for a short time, and that too in a specific region. If suppose I am living here in Kondwa, so if wind are blowing in my region, and suppose if you are living in some other region, so you cannot observe that wind. Okay, so local wind blow only in a specific region, but not in all region, and they blow only for a some time, only for a short duration. So this type of wind are known as local winds. So what are local winds? See, again I'm explaining. Local winds blow for a short time and they blow only in a specific region. That is why they are known as local winds. Student, as it is blowing only in a specific region, so whenever this wind blow, it affect the climate of that region also. Understood? It affect the climate also. Now local winds are also of different names. Let's see. They are sea breeze. Look at this diagram picture over here. Sea breeze. Sea breeze is also a local wind. Now student, look at the picture over here. What you see? It is a seashore. Okay? It is a seashore. On a seashore, student, land gets heated during daytime. ओके, सीशोर के पास क्या होता है, लैंड जो है डे टाइम में क्या होते हैं, हीट, गर्म हो जाते हैं. लैंड गेट्स हीटेड ड्यूरिंग डे टाइम. सो व्हेन एयर इज ब्लोइंग or moving from sea towards the land, you can see over there in the picture, when wind are blowing from land, from sea towards the land, you can see all the water are coming towards the land because of the movement in the wind. So when wind is blowing from the sea towards the land, it is called sea breeze. What it is called? Sea breeze. So sea breeze is also one of the example of local winds. Let's see the next example, that is land breeze. At night, student, land cools down faster compared to the sea. Okay, you can see in this picture, it is a night time. Moon is there. Yes, it is a night time. So at night time, what happened? Land cools faster. So when wind is blowing from land towards the sea, नाउ यहाँ पे विंड कैसी ब्लो हो रही है, लैंड से सी की तरफ. सो व्हेन विंड इज ब्लोइंग फ्रॉम लैंड टूवर्ड्स द सी, इट इज नोन एज लैंड ब्रीज. सो लैंड ब्रीज इज ऑल्सो एग्जाम्पल ऑफ लोकल विंड्स. सो हैव यू अंडरस्टूड स्टूडेंट what is local winds? Okay, now let's see the third type of wind, that is seasonal wind or monsoon winds. Monsoon winds are generated due to the uneven heating of land and water in the different season. During summer, monsoon blow from the sea to the land, and in winter they blow from the land to the sea. Southeast Asia, East Africa, North Australia are the region where the pronounced effect of these winds are felt. See figure 5.6. The influence of monsoon winds is seen in the summer and winter season in the Indian subcontinent. Due to these winds, the Indian subcontinent experience monsoon and retreating monsoon season apart from summer and winter. Now see, what do you mean by seasonal winds? Student, most of the Indian subcontinent is affected by the monsoon wind. Okay, our Indian subcontinent, student, most of the time it is raining over here in our Indian subcontinent, and because of this it is the effect of monsoon winds. Now look at this diagram over here. Student, as we move from the equator, means as we cross the equator, you can see in the diagram over here in pink color it is shown the equator, right? Can you see that? Okay, so student, when we cross this equator, when we cross the equator, the winds are blowing from southwest towards the Indian subcontinent. Student, you can see the black arrow, it been showing and it has been written that southwest seasonal wind. Can you see that? So it shows that the wind are start blowing from where? From southwest, and is moving towards the Indian subcontinent. The upper portion, student, can you see the Asia over there? So the upper portion is Indian subcontinent. So as we cross the equator, here the wind are start blowing from southwest and it is moving towards the Indian subcontinent. So student, at this time they are called as southwest monsoon winds. Which winds it is going to call? Southwest monsoon wind, because it is starting from southwest and it is going towards the subcontinent. That's why it is known as southwest monsoon wind. Student, southwest monsoon winds is always full of moisture, means it is raining over here. That's why it is full of moisture. Now let's see the next diagram. See this diagram, student. Here also you can see the equator. Now here we are coming downwards. Okay, we are coming below the equator. Now see, below the equator, when we are moving, the pressure is low over here. Okay, down below the equator the pressure is low. So here the winds are coming downward from the Indian subcontinent towards the equator. Understood? The upward portion is Indian subcontinent and down below we are coming. We are coming down to the equator. So all the winds are coming downwards. You can see the arrow over there. So northeast retreating monsoon, इंडियन सबकॉन्टिनेंट से नीचे की तरफ all the winds are blowing, so it is coming to the north. Okay, that's why student they are called as northeast monsoon winds. What it is called? Northeast monsoon winds. This northeast monsoon winds, student, they are dry winds. What are these winds? They are dry winds. See student, again I am explaining. Look at that figure carefully. When we are moving from the equator, means where we are going from the south side. Okay, it is known as southwest monsoon wind. When winds are blowing from Indian subcontinent towards the north side, मीन्स विंड्स कहाँ पर आ रही है? नॉर्थ डायरेक्शन में अगर आ रही है तो इट इज़ नोन एज नॉर्थ ईस्ट मानसून विंड्स. So student, have you understood the seasonal wind or monsoon wind? Okay, so now student, today we have learned about winds What do you mean by winds? How the wind affects due to the rotation of the earth, and the three types of winds, that is planetary winds, local winds, and seasonal winds. I hope student you will understand this carefully. So student, whatever I have explained you, go through all this diagram once again. Okay? Till then, take care and thank you.